Your company culture isn't the core values you painted on the wall. It's the byproduct of exactly three things: what you train, what you tolerate, and what you inspect. In a world where leadership titles get handed out like business cards, the real experience is hands-on accountability, the kind that builds competence early, protects the customer experience, and keeps people from hiding behind a logo. Because here's the truth: culture isn't what you put into your value statements. It's what your team experiences daily and how they show up under pressure. If you don't train thoroughly, people build habits around what they guess is the right behavior. If you don't inspect consistently, standards drift. And if you tolerate mediocrity just this one time, it becomes the new baseline. As a CEO, I learned the hard way. We landed a high visibility role with a consulting client. Big stakes, executive exposure. I brought on a new recruiter. She was sharp, hungry, and charismatic. I trained her on sourcing, qualifications, and how we structured our interview process. But once the rec got busy, I stopped inspecting closely. I assumed competence because she sounded confident, but competence depends on the situation, and I hadn't trained her on how to truly represent in the role. We submitted a candidate who looked perfect on paper. Strong resume, clean notes, but when the client dug deeper on regulatory experience and stakeholder management, that's when the gap started to show. The candidate wasn't ready, the client's confidence dipped, and we had to work twice as hard to rebuild trust. Now that was on me, and it completely reshaped how I lead. Now, when somebody joins my team, we don't just review process, we rehearse it. We role-play objections, we dissect scorecards, and we audit calls. Not because I don't trust them, but because I care about their success. Look, nobody joins a team wanting to fail. People want to feel confident in what they do. And true confidence doesn't happen by accident. It comes from deep situational competence and holding them to a standard of excellence. When you build a team of owners, a group of people who operate as if their name was on the building, inspection doesn't feel like micromanagement. It feels like support. It's the difference between building a brand that survives on marketing and one that survives on reputation. And that's exactly what we're digging into today. Today's guest is Courtney Polis, the founder and broker owner of Acme Real Estate, a boutique brokerage that's competed and thrived in Los Angeles since 2011. She's the voice behind the podcast, The Clean Close, where she challenges the status quo in an industry being reshaped by consolidation, incentives, and legal pressure. Now, as you listen in, pay attention to these three leadership principles, which we're going to unpack. Competence creates confidence. Courtney explains how a structured onboarding process, ethics first, then reps, then real life experience, accelerates performance and prevents costly mistakes. Owners outperform renters. She builds agents who think like CEOs, not employees, raising accountability and elevating the client experience. Retention is a system, not a speech. Clear standards and alignment beat trying to sell people on staying. So whether you're running a brokerage, a recruiting firm, or you're trying to scale a startup from 10 people to 50, the question isn't whether you have a culture, because you already do. The question is whether you're building it intentionally or letting it form by accident. With that, let's get into it. Courtney, welcome to the show. I'm really looking forward to digging in.
Thank you so much for having me. Me too. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Awesome. Well, let's start at the top. I'm really curious, right? Down in LA, I know a lot of corporate real estate firms are making it big. You've really stuck true to your roots and operate Acme as a boutique real estate firm. Can you tell me a little bit about why that makes you unique and the better choice for your clients?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, listen, a disclaimer is that there are a lot of great agents in Los Angeles. What I've learned is that there aren't a lot of real estate brokerages that are hands-on when it comes to broker management. In fact, many brokerages don't even have a broker in the office anymore. They have a sales manager. The responsibilities of being a broker are quite different than a team leader or than a sales manager. And that's the problem. That's the hurdle, is that words are becoming word soup. So basically in Los Angeles, just like everywhere, when I got into real estate in 2005, I started in DC, Maryland, and Virginia, and then I moved here in 2010 and started Acme in 2011. But during all that time, I was with bigger brokerages, with the exception of the tail end of my DC career when I was with a boutique, and it was quite a different experience. And it was a boutique that had very capable brokers, but they didn't have an office. We mostly worked from home. We kind of got together to see each other, to hang out and talk and stuff like that. But we really didn't have that trophy mentality. And so, my disclaimer here is that you got to do what works for you when you're an agent. The experience for a client, though, is very different. So from a client point of view, when you have a broker that's actually training the agents and accountable for their ethics and their behavior, it just adds a higher level of professionalism sooner in their career. So the classic real estate licensee timeline is that you go online, you had a million jobs, you decide you want to try real estate, you think it looks easy, you've seen it on TV. You get your real estate license by doing the education online. You Google, what's the best brokerage for a new agent? You find Keller Williams, you find this thing and the other, and then you join an EXP or a Keller Williams. They get all excited. Oh, you're going to be great. We're going to get you into these classes. You go into classes that are not structured as far as like holistically structured. Like you're not getting the training. You're getting class by class education, some of which you can understand, a lot of which you can't because you have no basis for applying it unless you bought or sold your own home or unless your parent was a real estate agent or something like that. And then they send you out into the field and there you are with your clients making mistakes you don't even know you're making. And clients might even not know that they were being not well represented in a negotiation, whether it's on price or on, like requests for repairs on inspections or anything like that. And after 2 years of bumbling around, knocking into different things and realizing you're not trained, you then decide that you're going to join a team. And then on the team, they take 50% of your income. You bring them 50% of your business as well. And the leads they give you, the clients you're working with, you can't keep when you leave. You do that for a few years until you realize, hey, this kind of stinks. Or some teams, they won't even let you work both sides of a transaction. You're just a buyer agent or you're just a listing agent. You don't have a choice. And so you're not getting the full spectrum of the experience of being able to run your own business. And so at Acme, I've been through that rigmarole. Okay. I did it myself, like everybody does. And I realized that what it does is it slows you down so that more people can make more money off of you earlier on. Unfortunately, being a broker, I learned that there is an algorithm, right? Like the brokerages make the most percentage-wise on new licensees. So even if you do just 2 deals in 1 year, you're split super low. So you're getting 40% maybe of your commission. The brokerage makes 60. On the mid-level producers, which is who everybody recruits, and those are the ones that suck because they're the hardest to keep engaged. They get solicited very early on. Like they just start producing. You train them, they just start producing, and then they get solicited by companies, sometimes paying them to move or whatever, because those are the mid-level producers are the ones where the brokerage makes the most money because now you're consistently doing deals. The brokerage makes a smaller cut, but you're doing greater volume. And then there are the top producers. The brokerage makes no money on the top producers, but it's more like advertising. You get more signs in the yard. Right. So there are more signs in the yard. Okay. There are people, the conventional kind of, I love men. I've been called by my son a radical feminist, but I do understand that business, especially real estate, historically has been a male-dominated industry, although in the past 20 to 30 years, I think that the values that the touches, the sensibility, I should say, that women bring to it has resulted in women making really dynamic changes to the way things are done. But the old way, which I think is more of a masculine way of incentivizing performance, is based on incentives. Now, to be fair, I did see an Elon Musk interview where he said, if you want to predict what somebody does, look at what the incentives are that you're giving them. And I can't help but digest, like, could I have given more incentives? Should I have created more incentives along the way? Because I'm not motivated by trophies. I'm not motivated by awards. So I assume that the people who want to be here are motivated by something else. And the thing that we are motivated by culturally in our firm is a startup spirit, is client experience, is high level marketing, and that feeling of growth that, when you're at a startup, you're always feeling like you're growing. You always feel like you're new, we have that always. Like it's built into the spirit of the company, and we're always the underdogs. So we're always feeling like, what can we do to be better? Is it social media? Is it my podcast? Is it more exposure for the agents? Is it teaching them media training? Is it bringing in a videographer? Is it rejiggering the galleries on their Instagram sites? Like, we're always just trying to figure out how the brokerage can bring what it is that agents need. Let's face it, like real estate agents, we are now suddenly required to be all of these things, which not everybody just is naturally. A lot of people don't like to be in front of the camera. I love being in front of the camera, but a lot of people don't. They're like, just let's post the pictures of the houses. Well, now we have a visibility problem with AI search engines and with the fact that so many other agents, especially the ones that are younger than my generation, I'm in my late 40s. So, like the people coming in younger than me, they're not afraid of social media. So you're getting bested by visibility just by not showing your face and not letting people know who you are. And, we know now post-COVID, 85% of buyers are finding their real estate agents and their listings online. Crazy.
85%. I mean, that's almost all of it.
It's a lot. Well, I should clarify, 85% supposedly, based on the statistic that I read, post-COVID, 85% of buyers are finding their homes online. I don't know what the percentage is for how many people are finding their agents online, but just based on my firm and like what my hands-on experience is with some of the agents that we've had that have become social media influencers, they are finding their agents online. So I don't know how that correlates to the 85%. So in full transparency, that's what I meant is they're finding the houses, they're finding the agents online. The more visible you are, the more likely you are to get that lead.
That makes sense. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, and people think that if you have a lot of followers, that you actually have done a lot of deals, which is a kind of a dupe, but I have something else to say on that, but I've been talking a lot. So go ahead.
This is great. I have so many questions, and it is very interesting how in today's, climate, right? It's like if your face is online, if you have a bunch of followers, then you must be doing great job from a business perspective. The two don't always correlate, right? But there is something said about name recognition. And there's probably an element of that you bring into some of the marketing that you're doing, right, with your team. And so we could touch on that.
You just have to.
I have three quick questions, and then let's dig into the marketing.
Just
I'm curious
1 second.
How you all position yourselves. Yeah, let's go.
One little thing, just going back to the difference between a big brokerage experience and a boutique experience. To your point just there, is that agents at boutique brokerages, at least at mine, they are like, how I train them is to operate their business as if they are the CEO of their business, as opposed to relying on the brokerage for everything, whether it's personal branding or whatever. We provide the tools, we provide the opportunity. We lead the horses to water, but you know what? At the end of the day, what I've learned is that agents fail or succeed based on their own level of effort, truly. So anyway, the brokerage, big box wants you to be dependent on that brand. It wants you dependent on that brand. You think your success is the brand, but in fact, your success is yours. It's your creation. And that I can't express that enough. It's so important. It's something we really emphasize. Okay, I will go ahead with your questions.
No, I'm getting fired up just hearing you talk about like that level of ownership, right? And I would imagine not everybody wants to be an owner. But what's curious about you saying how you're attracting with the way that you're setting up your incentives, right? I know that I think we all have this inner monologue of like, shouldn't I do more of something else? Like maybe something that doesn't come natural to me, right? But then it also sounds like you've built a business of owners. And I've had the privilege of working with both owners of firms. I've had the privilege of working with individuals who operate as if they were owners of the firm, right? And they own their work. And the level of, customer experience that I have with individuals who own what it is that they do is significantly higher than somebody else who says, this is my job. this is my role and this is the department that I'm going to stick in. I can toss you over to Marianne, who's going to help you out with this other thing, right? That level of ownership that comes with individuals who own the product, or like you were saying, I think in your words, right, operate their job as if it was their business, probably changes the game. And I'm curious from
Yeah.
that perspective, have you noticed, the way that your team works and operates? Is there like a pretty big distinguishing factor against some of the other folks, competitors in your industry?
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think there is. I mean, first of all, just on a very granular level,
Yeah.
brokerages, when I started, used to have a broker in the office. Now those brokers have been replaced by sales managers. Sales managers answer to corporate on retention and recruitment and performance. So they're less interested in monitoring, training, and advising on any bad behaviors. They're not the right police as the like I would say as the law was kind of intending when it had managing brokers. Now in California, you have one broker for some companies for the entire state, the whole state. So that can be thousands of agents that are supposedly being managed by one broker. It's a flaw in the way the system is currently set up. So in my brokerage, the agents know that they can reach me at pretty much any time. And the things that come up these days in this market are so complicated. Like we do have attorneys on retainer for the questions that I can't answer, for any like legal wording or whatever. We need to consult with an attorney. But, I just think that as a broker, I answer those questions with a different level of accountability and expertise than like a sales manager might.
Absolutely.
So
I mean, you have
there
the
are
knowledge and the working experience.
yeah, exactly. And there are some managers, sales managers, who don't even answer the phone on the weekends. When are we doing our business? When? We're doing it on the weekends. And as a broker, sometimes I have to call another broker and be like, hey, just want to let you know, your agent just sent us over this, and we know for a fact that this offer wasn't presented, and your agent forged the presentation line. We need to handle this. And they're like, oh, this particular one was like, maybe he was out of town at our company barbecue. I was like, no, he literally sent us this saying that he presented it, but my clients saw the sellers there and confirmed it was not presented, which means he forged this. There was one agent who actually forged an acceptance on behalf of her clients. An agent at a big brokerage forged an acceptance on behalf of her client. It's so bad. And so we can do better. We have to do better. And I just think at a company like mine, where there's enough, it's not so big that you don't get attention, but it operates from a marketing perspective better, I would say, even, but at a bare minimum the same, and in many ways better than our competition. We have like national and international PR partners for our listings. A lot of stuff goes through the aggregator networks, of course, and that's true across the board. We only use architectural photographers for all of our listings, so there's a kind of reliable presentation. We have a dedicated graphic designer, so all of our agents aren't using multiple different graphic designers, but we're also not all using BS templates either, So it's like custom. Everything feels very custom, and it's like, buying your bread from a Parisian bakery as opposed to buying it at Walmart. Like it can look like a Parisian bread in a bag. You read the ingredients, you're like, what is this? Carrageenan? Like, no. So ours has 4 ingredients. You know what I mean? It's like our bread is baked on site. So, that's definitely a difference in the customer experience. So when I consult, like, for example, I just went on a listing presentation for 4 units in Hollywood that haven't been selling. They're not selling. They're single family, small lot, new construction. And the developer was like, what's the problem here? Is the pricing? And I'm like, I'm going to be honest with you. And I walked through and I was like, here's something that any buyer is going to notice, this, and we need to do options. We need to do upgrades. You need to improve your marketing. We need better staging. We need this thing, the other. He looked at me sideways. Who knows if I got it or not? But the point is, what you can rely on us for is like honesty. And then, and then we deliver, we deliver at the highest price the market will pay for the house, because we know it couldn't have been presented any better. That's like our guarantee. So when a lot of agents pay for things out of their pocket, for marketing, and if they don't have a lot of money or they are strapped, you'll see them taking iPhone photos still to this day, or just MLS printouts at the open houses and stuff like that. Like, it's just not what we do.
Totally. Yeah. You're bringing a cohesive package. And this is something that the agents then are getting when they come over to your firm. I think two things that I wanted to touch on that I thought was really interesting. Number one, when you're talking about operating your business and how you're working with other brokers who may be taking the weekends off, or like we were talking before we hopped on here, right? You're working all last week, you're going to work this week, right? Because this is when all of your clients have the week off. They've got the time off. And so they're going to be out looking at houses, buying houses, or working on the deals, right? Working on selling their place. Like, this is their focus time. And so you need to be available for them. So I think that's probably the, I don't know, just the nature of the business that you're in. And then the other piece that I wanted to touch on was just like onboarding. So you talked about how with these larger firms, right? The agents will come in, they'll take some classes that are probably grounded in theory, and then they kind of throw them out to the wolves. But you do something a little bit different. And that's, I think, one of the advantages that you get with working with a broker owner for a smaller boutique firm. So can you kind of tell the audience a little bit about what does onboarding look like at your firm?
Yeah, I definitely can take that. So, well, I mean, obviously onboarding is not very glamorous. That's the administrative part of making sure you have the right email address, right? But, but I have a training program called Agent Ascent. I developed it about, I don't know, maybe 8 to 10 years ago. I can't remember. COVID years make my date count like just wrong. But pretty soon after starting Acme, and I initially did it as a way of recruiting, because one thing that was important to me whenever I got my license was that the woman that I worked for, that I was an assistant to, she really like trained me. And I realized that a lot of people were not getting that. So in our training in Agent Ascent, we literally start with code of ethics, read word for word. Then we go through the process of like buyer acquisition, open house performance. And I used to be in acting, so it has a component of acting training too. Not that the acting is lying or anything, but there's a self-awareness. Yeah. For example, a lot of agents, without even realizing it, at open houses default to retail sales. So you'll see them standing in the kitchen, and when somebody comes in, the octave of their voice goes up a whole octave. Somebody will walk in and they'll go, "Hi, I'm Courtney. Would you please sign in?" And then, like, and then when the people walk back around, they're like, "Any questions?" And of course the people are like, "Nah, I'm just looking," which is kind of, that's not good enough. So, I teach how to be self-aware, how to, in moments where you're worried naturally about being rejected or about confronting someone in a person-to-person way, lowering your voice, speaking more slowly. "Hi, I'm Courtney. Nice to meet you. I've got my sign-in sheet here." That's an instruction. I'm telling you to sign in. I'm not asking you to sign in. I'm not thanking you for signing in. I'm instructing you to sign in because I have a legal responsibility to provide the names of every person that came through the open house to my seller. So it's not for me a question of, "Do you mind?" No, it's not, "Do you mind?" And I'm nice, but I'm not that nice. You know what I mean? Because I don't think buyers always want an agent to be so nice. You might want an agent who's kind of a pit bull. You kind of want somebody who, I was just going to say some inappropriate comment they say in hip hop, like, it's okay, like a lady on the street, but a freak in the bed. But it's kind of like you want somebody who's kind of who's classy and kind, but also is like a pit bull in the negotiation process, something Absolutely. Like that. Right.
And so you can't representing for me when I go into an engagement like that.
Right. But you also want somebody you might not like to work with, right? Somebody who seems competent. So for me in the training, I'm always teaching competence. That's where it all starts. And that's what young agents lack the most. They are not confident. That you can fake. They're not confident because they're not competent. They're not competent because they haven't read the contract so many times that they could answer any question about any paragraph from any prospective buyer's parents who are lawyers in Massachusetts, for example, right? So you have to get so familiar with it, so forwards and backwards with it. And to that point, I test them. We also do secret shopping as part of the training. I send my agents out into the field, and each of them have to review 3 open houses. And there's like a form you fill out when you walk in. Like, what do the signs look like? Were there balloons? Is it corny? Like, was there any weird scent? Did they have a candle burning? Were they offering you food? Did they make you sign in? Did they have brochures? What did their brochures look like? Like, let's look at our competition. and see what it is that they're doing. And, like without a doubt, almost every single time I do the training, about 7 out of 10 of the agents don't ask the buyers to sign in. So they don't even know if the person walking in the door is a buyer, is an agent, is a neighbor. They have no idea.
7 out of 10.
That's crazy to
That's
me.
a lot.
7 out of 10.
Out. Wow.
You're missing out on so much, but especially if you're there working for your seller, how do you advise the seller then if the house isn't selling? You don't even know who to follow up with. Are you just going to wing it? Kind of go on your own instinct? That's not it. So the training gets in that. We also do analysis of, like, for example, if a newer agent is thinking, okay, I want to market to this particular area, or I want to market to dog lovers, or I want to market to the moms at my school, whatever it is that their first sphere of influence marketing campaign is going to kind of expand on, whatever. There's farming, like the way you waste a lot of money is by throwing a lot of stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. We don't want to do that. So usually I have people kind of examine who is in their network already. What is the shared cultural thing here? Do we all love our kids? Do we all, or like have young kids? Or do we all love dogs? Are we in animal rescue? Or do we all love fashion? Are we into makeup? Or do we all have Botox? Like, what's the deal? I do not have Botox, but I'm just saying, not that I haven't, but I'm not including myself in that group. I'm just saying, no judgment. I'm just saying, like, there are things that like make people kind of coagulate, so you have to see what is it? So I have one agent who said to me, Courtney, I'm going to be the queen of this hill in Iraq, right? And since she said that to me, for the past probably 4 years, she has been relentless. She sends out multiple postcards a month. She offers things, CMAs. She does an entire Halloween street fair, which was crazy. I had never gone to it. Wow. I went to it this year. And she's like, I feel like I'm pulling off Coachella. I'm like, for real, you have live music and free photos and food stands and haunted house. And like, it was wild. And there were so many people there. But she put in the effort, and it takes time, but she is getting the listings in that neighborhood. I think she's had the best year of her career this year. And so it doesn't happen immediately. People aren't used to that. They don't get that. So like, there's an approach to things. I have people analyze the competition, see what their weaknesses are, and ultimately try to create a plan that attacks on those weaker fronts of our competition in that area. So that's part of our business planning, what we do when agents first come on. It's part of the agent ascent program as well. In addition to walking through, we really go, again, at a granular level through inspection reports. And I say to my agents, what from this report is normal? What do you see all the time? Open junction boxes in the attic, tiny little hairline cracks in the foundation. That's normal stuff. If you've never seen an inspection report before, or you're with your buyers for the first time and the buyers are freaking out, you have to be able to say, some of these things are normal. Let's ask the inspector, what is a cause for concern? So not everything, some of this is maintenance, some of the, just to know how to coach your clients through what's very scary process for them. These are all things that I teach that I think get our newer agents to more production earlier on in their career. So it's pretty intensive. I mean, it's mastery based. So sometimes it's 11 weeks, sometimes it's 15 weeks, but we take the amount of time it takes to make sure we're sending out trained professionals into the LA real estate world, because it's the NFL of real estate. You can't suck and succeed.
Right. There's a high stakes. It's a high stakes industry to begin with. Right. And then obviously in LA, it just ups the level of competition. 2 things that you said that stuck out to me with your onboarding, which I think not a lot of people do. Or take the time to do, is like, number one, establish like that baseline, right? Of, hey, this is how you fit in, right? This is what is expected. Code of ethics, right? This is the standard you do. And then you dig into competence, right? How do you develop competence? Like, competence just comes with familiarity. And so actually taking them through an inspection report, right? How you should be presenting yourself in an open house, letting them go and experience what a bad open house feels like and what a good one experience that feels like, right?
Yes.
You're basically giving them the experience through the lens of your brokerage, which I don't think enough people do. And it's actually a leading cause of turnover, is like the onboarding experience, right? And
really
what I've experienced myself, just like working in peer groups for large companies and small companies, is one of the biggest reasons why people leave is because they can't fit in fast enough. And the biggest reason or driver for why they can't fit in fast enough is because their manager or leader or peer, whoever the lead is on the team, doesn't help them develop that competence by developing familiarity. So you're driving it home, and it's obviously one of the big reasons why you're able to keep people. So one other thing, I had a question, because you talked about, there's the entry level agents, right?
Yes.
And then there's the mid-level agents, which are really hard to keep. Right.
Yep.
And then there's the experienced folks who maybe you're not going to be making a whole ton of money on, but they're great for marketing. Can we talk a little bit about the mid-level agents?
Yeah.
Right. And how you were talking about, hey, you need to keep them engaged. And those are probably the ones that keep you up at night, where you're like, I wish I would have provided more incentives.
No.
But maybe the way that you're structuring things is driving the folks that come to your firm. So what are you doing to keep them?
Well, the incentives thing, the more I'm still marinating over it. It was just like a statement that I'm like, shit, I'm not giving away like a free trip to, Jamaica or something like at the end of every year but I guess I could, but it's just not, it's like whenever some companies started paying for recruitment, I'm like, you really want a culture of people that just went there because they got paid? It's just not what I'm about. So it would be very foreign to me. And at some point, being a broker, you have to go like, are you doing this strictly for the business, for the money, or is there some other value in there? Is it for the, joy of marketing, or the joy of seeing people realize their dreams, or like, what is in there for you? Now, if this may be a space where if I had to create a new brokerage right now, I would do things differently. Definitely. I think I poured a lot of my heart into Acme because I'm a DIY underdog personality in my life. I've been that, always trying to prove my value. So that never comes foreign to me. I've always been somebody who's, we were the poor kid on the block. It's just like whatever nonsense kid trauma stuff where I'm always like, I got to prove my worth. I got to prove my value. I deserve a seat at the table. Like that gets you really far for ambition. I was the second born. But there's 10 years difference between me and my older sister. And there's 13 years difference between me and my younger sister, 12 and 13 years difference. And the younger sister is actually a broker at my firm. She's been in the business, she's been by my side for a decade. So it's kind of cool. But yeah, I was kind of raised like an only child, but we didn't have much, and certainly one thing that we didn't have was financial education. It's just not something that, that we were taught. And I know I'm not alone in that, but I've had to learn. And you have a couple routes when you're a young woman. You can try to marry money. You can try to educate yourself into high level jobs and, spend your lifetime just chasing your own money that way. I opted to try to create a law of attraction brokerage where people who shared the desire to not have trophies, the desire to not feel like you're at a corporate brokerage, the desire to, go to the office when you feel like it. But if you have kids and, you're running around, you don't want to feel like you have to do the desk job thing. So I had hoped, and I think I've been successful in most ways at creating a place where it attracted people who are getting their needs met by the amount of interaction and personalized attention that they're getting from me. But also they want to work with somebody who's like a good person, like not a LA style real estate shark who's answering to the corporate headquarters about what your performance is. Like, it's just not for me. And I think that my agents, it's not for them. That said, the mid-level performers are the producers are frustrating. I could put it on a timeline. They come in earnest and humble. I pour education and training and things into them. They start to apply it, and then they start to grow. And then, it collects the attention of brokerages that want to recruit. And they promise them the world, and I can't promise you the world. I don't give out leads. I teach people how to make the leads come to them. I don't have money to pay to make somebody stay. I'm not going to give you $100,000 in marketing money to make you stay. Like somebody else might give you that, but then you're on the hook with them for who knows how long. You think it's like a recording contract, right? The artists are the talent. The talent is the money. You exploit the artists, and you give them this money in advance. But if they leave before a certain amount of time, then they have to pay you back. Like, that's rough.
Yeah.
So all that to say, when some brokerages started doing that, it was very tough to compete. They were recruiting people literally who just started doing deals, like maybe 1 or 2 deals under their belt.
Oh, geez.
There was one circumstance where this one gal who was at my firm just got her first, like after training, just got her first flip client. Okay. And it was it was in East LA, and her house got like, they had a kind of an anti-gentrification movement there. The house got tagged, people were like just treating her, putting her on social groups and everything. And I had her back like 100%. I was there for her through the entire thing, navigating it with her, and, taking phone calls at all odd hours and whatever. It was her next deal. I think her second deal, where a company was like, we'll pay you a couple grand to come with us. And she's like, okay. I'm like, really? It meant nothing to you? So if I had to do it all over again, I think I would probably adjust the training a little bit to be only for people who have, like, we actually have changed our policy a little bit. I make an exception here or there, but for only agents who have done 5 deals or more to join the firm, so that they can really understand what I'm training from a experience point of view, because I realize maybe some of this stuff that I'm teaching them goes over their head since they don't have any point of reference. Sure. I would also set standards of performance before people get in my inner circle of lead referrals, of part, like, shared deals and that kind of thing. I would definitely like make it a little bit, that would be the incentive, is that you have to have a little higher bar of entry. But I've lived my career trying to make superstars out of people who didn't think they could do it. And that was what I was in it for. And that's why we could have grown bigger. It could have probably been more profitable. I probably could have made more money or done more things to try and, make people stay. But I don't like the feeling of being across the table from somebody who's done half the amount of deals I've done in my life, ask me, what can you do for me? When I'm like, how about what can you do for you? I've built my business on me, and you can build your business on you. I can teach you how to do that. What I'm not going to do is justify my value. It just feels so imbalanced. I can't do it. So I'm unlike, I probably should take a class in recruiting if I ever want to do this again, because I hate it. I hate it. I don't do it. I don't do it. And it's icky to me. It's like there's an icky feeling when you get a phone call from an agent who, a team that has like recruited them. I'm like, really? You didn't even call me and say like, hey, I got a call from this other team. I'm going to go interview with them. Here's what they offered me. Here's what I'd love for you to see if you can meet or compete. A lot of agents don't even give their existing brokerage a chance. And then they're too humbled by the process. Like, once they leave, they feel like they can never go back. So they know what they've lost. I've heard this before, and I can tell you from my experience, bringing someone back on once that trust is gone, it's not the same. It's never the same. So. Yeah,
totally. I've worked with, I have a bunch of friends who are real estate agents, right? Obviously we're up in Sacramento. We're not down in LA. So it's a little bit different climate.
Right.
I've also hired sales teams, and I think you get similar situations, right? Where maybe the organization is built upon this, you eat what you kill mentality. And so what I've noticed is, if you can set up and lay out the rules of the game very early on about what they're going to get with looking with your firm, you'll weed people out earlier, but you're still going to end up in a situation where 80% of the people that you hire aren't going to work out. And you're really looking, you're okay with that as long as you get the 20% who are going to be with you for the next 5 to 10 years.
Right. Yeah. And I will also say, the first, I've tried to I've hired people in the course of owning my business that were friends, that was such a fail. I don't know why I did that. I'm like, was I so naive at the beginning of this that I thought that somebody would appreciate me trying to share, like, look, I learned this way to make more money and be your own boss and you can do it and I'll teach you everything I know. I was so committed to their success. And then to hear, it's that part like scarred me early on. And I would say, as much as I think, again, women in business, we really do bring so much emotional intelligence to the game. But the flip side is that I operate with my heart too much in the beginning. And I think I've grown out of that now. I feel like I've got a scar tissue there. So I'm a little bit more mature in this now, and I think that there are a lot of agents that become brokers because they want more of their commission, because they want to run their small team as a brokerage. And they learn the hard way, that this is actually a different skill set. This is actually more like, this is not being a team lead at a brokerage. This is not what when I see people calling themselves founders of teams at brokerages that exist. I'm like, you're not a founder of anything. You're just a team lead. But it gives the consumer the idea that it's a broker. Running a brokerage, it's a whole different thing, whole different amount of accountability, whole different set of procedural stuff, whole set of, different responsibilities, so much different. It's frustrating to me. I think that we've kind of like social media has made people just make words mean less, unfortunately. And I wrote a Substack about that, make words great again. I'm sure there were people who were in my network who do that and they like, don't like that I said it, but hey, that's what but yeah, I do think that like, had I done it again, having your heart in it a little bit is a weakness in this part of the business. Maybe not when you're interacting with your clients, but definitely in the running of a brokerage. Like you can operate ethically at a distance from your agents and, just not take it personally if people decide to move, because that's who people are. People always seem to think it's out there. That thing is outside. It's going to make me bigger, make me get more deals, but it's not. It's like the reason why somebody liked you is because you created something. The more control you have over it and the less you think that it's about the brokerage that you're at, the more successful you'll be in the long term, in my opinion, in this business.
I love that. I think there's an element of freedom that you're putting into that, what you're calling, maybe tailoring back the emotional intelligence, right? Tailoring back the care, if you would, and being more objective about, just running the business. I think there's also an element of like when you, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say.
Yeah.
There's a delay.
All I was going to say is like, I have felt similar things to you. I've hired friends and then had to fire friends, and it feels really, really crap. I have seen people in the interview seat and like recognize a bit of myself in them. I'm like, wow, you look like a hard worker. You're somebody that I can believe in, right? And then I've hired them and they've been terrible and I had to fire them, right? And it was really uncomfortable.
Right.
And so what, I've been hiring, I've been a hiring manager for about 15 years now. And so I think it was around year 7 or 8 where I finally realized, I was like, okay, this is really stressing me out and it's painful. And my priorities, like work isn't number one for me, but it is something that I truly value and I excel at because I'm a hard worker. My family is higher than that. And so I had to put things into perspective and I was like, how am I going to really operate my business? Well, I'm going to lay out the rules of the game and be very objective about what you need to put in order to be successful here. And if you don't meet those standards, right, then like this isn't your place. And so what I've found is it's helped me realize that, okay, my goal is to be as straightforward and upfront and then set up the rules of the game. You were talking about incentives. It doesn't have to be a trip to Jamaica, but it could be, hey, if you're successful, this is the amount of money that you could make on my team, or these are the things that might come from you, the notoriety that you might get in working in my group, which touches all of these areas, which you won't get anywhere else. But in order to be on the team, this is what it takes. And if you don't meet that, like I will be very clear and upfront with you very quickly about you're not meeting the expectations, help you develop a roadmap to get back. And if it doesn't work out, then you're probably better suited working in another environment. And for me, that's been liberating because now it's like I'm not like firing people from my firm, right? It's more like I'm laying out the rules of the game. And if this is an environment where you can be successful, you're going to rise to the challenge and you're going to hit those objectives. And if not, there's probably something better for you out there. So if you choose to leave my firm, if I have to, say this isn't the right fit for you, it's really just me. Like you wouldn't have been happy here anyway. You would have been thinking about the grass being greener on the other side of the fence, when the reality
Yeah.
is like everybody who's here is like all in on working very hard to produce a great product, to find great people, to provide an excellent, a 10 out of 10 client experience. And if that's not you, then you would have been miserable working for us. And that wouldn't have been fun for anyone. So it's really, a benefit to me, a benefit to you, for me to either part ways with you or say, hey, great having you here for the past 6 months. I'm glad you found an opportunity that's going to fit your career a little bit better. And I'm going to stick to my 20% of the folks who stick around, because those are the ones that are going to be with me for the next 5 to 10 years.
Well said, man. Well said. I'm going to take some of that because I think that was actually good coaching. Good coaching for me. Like I can think about how could I apply that actually? Like I love that, So I just wanted to say what I was just kind of trying to interrupt to say is that it's not the emotional intelligence that's the weakness. Emotional intelligence is the greatness. It's the emotion. It's not like, oh, I'm aware of how this is, it's that I care too much, sometimes more than if I care more than the agent does about their success, then we have a problem. And that is the place where I've had to correct myself, because I realized what I was getting out of the business when I started it 14 years ago was I have something to contribute. I can make people's lives better. I can improve their agency experience. I know what the big guys offer. This is going to be more intimate, more of a startup vibe, more creative, better marketing, better everything. It's going to feel better than sitting there, at a big box competitor, listening to some guy tell me I'm not hitting my sales numbers for that year and then decreasing my split. Screw that. Let's make it flat. Let's go. So that's what I got out of it. But as time has progressed and our industry has changed more toward incentives, financial incentives for recruitment, more towards private listing networks, more towards liability, litigiousness, like bigger box problems, I think it's, to me, it's more like, well, if that's what you want, I can't give you that here, So to your point, it's like, I'm just taking it less personally. And you're absolutely right. I just love what you said. It's like, you probably wouldn't have been happy here for longer anyway. So do what makes you happy, which, it's the reality of things. It's like, you go, if you think you can do it better somewhere else, then go, and I make the majority of my money, which is probably a part of it too, on sales. So I'm in the business with people. I know what's going on. I know everything that's happening with people, and I'm there in it too, so it never gets stale. For me, it's always a new form to learn, and always a new approach to take, and always a new AI tool, and always a new this thing. And, that part is exciting for me. But one thing I never, ever, ever, ever do, and I would never want anyone else to do, is put my success or failure in the hands of a broker or a team lead, period. It is always with the person. Always, always, always. And that's the thing that they sell you on in those recruitment interviews at other brokerages I've been to. I've listened to their pitch. I've watched it. I'm like, so that's all you guys do the same. We have the exact same tools or better as all of the big guys. We're using the same thing. So there's no value to the consumer as far as where the listing is being marketed. What's the value then? You get to walk into a big, multi-story glossy commercial building with a receptionist and walk into an environment of 200 agents and do a sales meeting where you feel like you're part of a bigger community. I can't give you that. Yeah. But if 100 of the people in that community just show up to work to do nothing but talk to each other, that's not what we do here. I want to spend my time differently. Like you said, I have family. I have kids. I don't want to work more than I have to do an excellent job. So the last thing I want to do is create an environment where people feel like they have to come in and waste their time instead of being out in the field at inspections, appraisals, pitching their listings, et cetera. That's what they should be spending their time doing. If they're not doing that, they should be at their happy place, rooftop pool, or with their kids, or whatever it is, it's just not, So, listen, it's a learning thing. Whenever you own your own business, you have to ride the waves, and there are waves. And this has been an interesting year in real estate. We have a lot of lawsuits. People are I cover them on my podcast. I had somebody on my podcast last week who was in the evidentiary hearings for Compass versus Zillow and saw the internal documents, which are now, they want to destroy you. They want to destroy you as an agent. Yet we are such a huge source of their revenue, revenue stream. It's insane when you see it in writing. You're like, this is what they're, it's like the Epstein files. It's like the Epstein files. You're like, I knew something derelict was going on, but it's that bad. Yeah, it's that bad. It's that bad. And you know what? I don't love Compass. I don't love their private listing network. I don't love it at all. I hate it. In fact, I was like, this is great. Zillow finally put them in their place. No, you know, now when I read it, I'm like, how is Zillow looking kind of like they're on at least closer to what I would consider, at least they're trying. It's nuanced because you don't want to tell somebody to sell their property off market just so you can double in the deal, or so that, you know, you're convincing them to sign away their rights, sign away an addendum saying they know they're going to get less for the deal or fewer showings, or, you know, it's not going to be exposed as much. Like, no, I have a solution for this. And I think we should have a nationwide off market listing service like the PLS that we all agree. We're going to put all of our off markets on there so that even the Compass off markets can be seen by a Coldwell Banker agent who has an off market, whatever. So that if they do truly, if it's about seller choice, there's a place for them to put it that's not on the market, but that agents have access to, so they never feel like it wasn't really getting enough exposure.
Sure.
So that was one thing. Also, you know, I really do think that we would benefit from having one MLS per state. I don't think we need to have an MLS every county. It's like ridiculous how many MLSs we have to pay into if we sell in an area like an LA metropolitan area.
Oh, what are they trying to do there? They're just trying to make more money? Like, is that, like, what's going on?
Yeah. I mean, there are people who make that case that, like, you know, and then each MLS has its own rules about how long
a property. It almost seems like it prevents competition, right?
It is. Well, there hasn't been any competition. It's been run like a mafia. You have to join NAR. You have to join the local association. You have to join the association to join the MLS to get the showing box, like the super boxes and the key to open it. You had no choice. So, you know, they're doing these like not false flag, but like, you know, they made this announcement. Now they're going to decouple association membership from MLS membership. Well, I called our MLS. I was like, question. If I'm not a member of the local association, how do I get the forms? And they're like, no, you have to be a member. I'm like, yeah, of course. So the MLS is not designed to be a policeman, but that's what the new rules of the settlement are trying to make them. And that's what NAR is trying to do too. They just released this delayed entry option. So it's supposed to encourage people to put their off markets into the MLS. But each individual MLS gets to decide how long my listing can be in there before it requires it to go live. Now, if I have a $15 million listing versus $1 million listing, it might take a lot longer to sell the $15 million listing. There are fewer buyers.
Sure.
Why does the MLS, which is by now, like so far been like a data, like an animated Excel spreadsheet, literally stuck in the 90s, why does it get to decide how I market my property? You know, it's crazy. So they have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I've done some underwriting of homes, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, it's an old
system.
Oh
my gosh,
it's not very tech savvy, right? When you go
and it's not accurate.
Listing, it's ugly.
It's not accurate anymore either. Even the data entry, which is like their one job. You know, you have one job. Your job is to have the accurate data, but because of the way that they count days on market, even the days on market's not right. So if you take a listing, right? Say I have a listing, and a buyer makes an offer. Now I'm under contract, right? Like I'm in escrow. If that contract has contingencies, technically you would put it to active contingent, which used to be called looking for back, but the day count keeps running. Why? Why wouldn't it stop when that contract is signed? It said, because you're still marketing the property. Well, now you've disincentivized people to market it for backup because agents want to go to their sellers and be like, look, I sold it in 7 days. You know, they don't want a rolling days on market count. So they'll change it right to pending, even though contingencies in the accepted offer, just to get a shorter days on market for their stats. That's a problem. But it makes the data all over the place. So who's looking at days on market data? Appraisers, you know, other agents when they're going to try and, you know, make a list of house. So how can they not get that one thing right? Yet they're supposed to be in charge of our entire marketing timeline. Like, it's just not right. And people are getting furious about it. There was recently a working group who put out a report. These heads of many companies, they haven't announced, kind of secret, again, that's, they came out with this report and said, hey, NAR, you need to fix this stuff. They had a long list, it's on my podcast, of things that they are saying to NAR, you've got to empty that big bank account, stop making us a target, give us back the fees that you charge us that we're going nowhere, that you obviously didn't need because they're just sitting here. Tell us more about the private equity firm that you created that we are not shareholders of, okay? Make there be fewer people on these committees. Why do you have 1,500 volunteers? What are these salaries that people are making? Like, why are they making so much money? Where is it going? Like, even as big as a big institution as NAR was, it didn't prevent the loss. Right. Our contracts are written by attorneys. Our contracts are written by attorneys. And the way the fees are broken down has been vetted by attorneys. It's in plain English right there. So, the most shocking thing of it all, and there's an appeals right now because of this part, not because somebody's appealing saying overturn the Sitzer-Burnett thing. That was totally wrong. The thing was in the contract and everybody agreed that's the way it should be done. No, it's because this one seller's like, I'm not making enough. I'm only making $16 on this class action lawsuit. So the people who actually participated in that are each making, this is what I heard, $16. But the impact on our industry and the amount of money those lawyers made is millions, hundreds of millions. Bananas. We have a problem. Houston, we have a problem.
Absolutely bananas. I'm in the wrong.
It's crazy.
I should have been a lawyer. Yeah.
Dude, or something. Maybe you should open a daycare in Minnesota.
Well, shoot, Courtney, I know we've been going for an hour, and I want to ask one last question.
Okay.
Get you out of here. I know you got a lot of stuff to do.
I do, actually. Let me just.
So the last question that I have for you, okay, somebody who's differentiating, right, between going to want to start their own brokerage, right, or be an agent at like a boutique firm like yours where they can be an owner, right, without dealing with the headache. Like, what's that big differentiator? And why did you make the choice to go and be a?
Well, I made the choice to be a broker because I wanted to do things my own way. I have a very healthy lack of trust for authority. And I also don't, somebody coined this term, conspiracy realist. And there's always been something about corporate brokerages that creeps me out. It never resonated for me. Even the inauthenticity in those commission negotiations, even the inauthenticity in the community that they created of agents, it always felt like we were really in competition with each other, but we're pretending we're friends. I hate that. Yeah. So I created my own brokerage because I wanted to change the way it feels to work in real estate from a support point of view. I don't have to answer to any shareholders. So I don't have that problem. If you're not prepared to invest heavily in administrative costs, bookkeeping, tax deadlines, errors and omissions insurance, office supplies, printer, whatever, then you'd be better off at a virtual brokerage. If you could maybe create a team where you just are talking on the phone or meeting for coffee, small team, if you want to be in leadership, there are many ways to. I don't think brokerage ownership is for everyone. Sometimes I don't even think it's for me anymore. I'll be honest. It's rough out there. It's been rewarding, but it's hard. It's really hard. And as you mature in this industry, you start to realize the whole thing now is starting to tilt to just avoiding lawsuits, like from a big way. Like if the smaller named brokerages, when the CPFB,
I don't know. I'll trust you.
Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB. When that first came out, they were going after escrow companies and title companies and small real estate firms, stuff like that. You get hit with one big lawsuit, you're out of business. You're out of business completely. So, it's to own a brokerage, you have to be leadership minded. You have to have the resources to be able to provide, I would say brick and mortar space and all the things that entails. You have to be able to have the time to take actual responsibility for the agent's performance and invested interest in their success. You have to have a skin of steel or emotions of steel because they're going to hurt your feelings and they're going to hurt you. And, you have to make decisions based on bottom lines instead of emotions. Like you have to make those decisions based on profit, what's profitable, what's not. And that is a rolling target. those new agents that you make the higher split on are the most, the most liability for you. So, it should be calculated. Being a team lead at a brokerage that you truly, as long as you're honest with the consumers about not being a broker and not really being a founder, you're not a founder. You didn't find anything. You found anything. You haven't found anything. You created a team. You're a team leader. Come on. As long as you're honest about that, not representing yourself as a broker, I think you can get there halfway. You can do it all without having the overhead, and you can still show up as a leader. And I think that's been a really successful path for a lot of people. But as far as being a broker owner, it looks great on a business card, but it's a lot of responsibility, and it's heavy. That's the
being honest, being a straight shooter. I can tell that's you. I've really enjoyed this conversation, Courtney. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
For me.
Yes.
Where can people go to get a hold of you, and where can they go to follow your content?
Yes. So please follow the Clean Close, and that's CLOSE podcast. It's at youtube.com/Acme, ACM as in Mary, E as in Edward, ACME real estate. Or you can follow me on Instagram at the Clean Close, CLOS.
Awesome. Well, Courtney, thank you so much for the time. It's been a blast.
You're welcome, Greg. Thank you.